Let me add myself to the stream there. If you are listening on the free conference call, I want to encourage you to ask your questions either by raising your hand on the free conference call. I will see it on occasion when I glance at the hold on, I'm realizing I need to get it set up. And for those of you who are on free conference call, I do want to apologize just a little bit. I don't know what my son said while I was getting my rings. But on his behalf, I apologize if it was anything that was silly. Please keep in mind he's 6. All right, so I've really been having a wonderful time today. We are in the home stretch of our Women Building Wealth Together conference, and it's been fantastic. If you have not yet got your ticket, there's one more day left. You can go to womenswealthsummit.com. You go to womenswealthsummit.com and you can, then there I am on the screen for those of you who are online. You can go to womenswealthsummit.com and you can get your free ticket. And if you have already registered, but you have missed some, then you'll want to go to Women's Wealth Summit Live.com, and that way you'll be able to get access to the recordings that you missed. So we do have people on the free conference call. We do have people that are on the live stream. Really appreciate you all being here today. Today is Thursday. It's our free conference. It's our fireside chat every first Thursday. I answer your questions. Now we've changed the way we do business with our Building Wealth Together our Building Wealth Together lessons. So let me just do a quick overview. Let me see if I can pull up this here, so I can do a quick overview of how we are doing these lessons. Okay, so here is our fireside chat. That's every first Thursday is the fireside chat. Oh, let me take that banner down so you can actually see them. But do go there though. Go ahead and go to womenswealthsummitlive.com. Oh, no, that's not the right one. Oh, y'all, I told you the wrong one. Hold on. It's Women's Wealth VIP. That's where you go to catch up on what you missed. Okay. But Women's Wealth Summit, if you just register, you get the event booklet, over $500 worth of goodies in there. That's at womenswealthsummit.com. But what we've been doing for the last couple months, and it's worked well, so I think we're going to keep it this way, is we have changed the Thursday night classes. So they're theme nights now. Why is that JJ a lowercase? Oh my goodness, that's my slide. I've had it for like 4 months now. Is that on all of them? Oh my goodness, I never noticed. That's horrible. If I hadn't said anything, y'all probably wouldn't have noticed either. So note to self, don't say stuff like that. Just keep it in. Use your inner voice. But every first Thursday is our fireside chat. Every second Thursday is our 7-figure business building. So this is where I equip you with tools, tricks, tips, and hacks to be able to take your business to the next level. All right. Every third Thursday, like it was back in the beginning when we first started Building Wealth Together, is every third Thursday is Real Estate Investing 101. I know what's happened. These slides, I imported them into into StreamYard, and they're not formatting very well. So those of you who are listening on free conference call, you don't see the slides, but the slides, they're all the text and everything is a little wonky. And the text that I like to use, I can bring it back up on the, for those of you who are watching, the font that I like to use is an all caps font that I use for a lot of these things. So it doesn't matter if it's lowercase or if it's anything. So that's what it's supposed to look like. Okay. Those of you who are on the free conference call, don't worry about it. Just know that every first Thursday is still fireside chat. Every second Thursday is your 7-figure business building. Third Thursday is real estate, and fourth Thursday is the empowered entrepreneur. Well, I'm going to fix those slides for next time. We're not going to embed them in the StreamYard next time, but that's okay. You live and learn. It's been a fantastic day, y'all. We have had a fantastic Women's Wealth Summit, and I'm so excited about it. I mean, the feedback, my phone's blowing up with all kinds of feedback. But look, here's what I'm going to need y'all to do for me before I start answering some of your money questions. I need you to give me feedback that I can post. because a lot of people give me very detailed, very intimate, very personalized feedback, and I'm very hesitant to post that online, right? So if you've got a testimonial, or if you want to shoot a quick 10-second, this was amazing, thank you JJ, or thank you, fill in the name of the guest speaker. If you want to send me something, go ahead and send me something, but don't make it so personal that everybody and their brother in your town knows who you are. See, that didn't used to matter to me when I was living in DC, because there's a million people on every block, right? Like you could live in the DC area, the DMV, DC, Maryland, or Virginia. You could live in the DMV, and you could basically, it's like Pittsburgh. You could go every block, one block a week, and never run into the same people twice. There's just so many people on top of each other, right? And so, but here in Stephenville, it's not the same. Here in Stephenville, it's a very small town, and I'm realizing everybody knows everybody, and sometimes people. So being anonymous is more important to me now than it used to be, and it's things that took me that long to really realize that, but since I realize it now, I'm more sensitive to it. So if you want to send me a testimonial, let's make sure that if it's anonymous, it stays anonymous. But regardless, I love the feedback. Look, I crave the feedback, because it helps me know that I'm bringing you the content, I'm bringing you the speakers, I'm bringing you what it is you need to move forward in your life, and that's what I need to know. So bring it, bring it, bring it. But if you could possibly bring it in a way that helps me build my business, well, I ain't gonna be mad at you. All right, I will be very, very happy with that. Okay, all right. So now the way that this is gonna work, if you're new to us, if you have a question, yes, sir. If you have a question, go ahead and drop it in the chat. You can drop your questions in the chat, or you can fill out the form at askjjc.com. And so it's askjjc.com. It's going to bring up a Google form that says, let's build wealth together. And it's going to ask your questions. There's only 2 required questions on that form. And one of those is your question. And the other one is, can I add you to my mailing list? Well, if you don't give me your email, if you don't give me your text, if you don't give me none of that stuff, then I'm not going to add you to it. So it's a very simple form. There's you can make it as complicated as you want, but you can go ahead and do that. If you're on free conference call, the way to ask a question, let me go ahead and switch that screen, make sure that I'm monitoring that screen well. The way to ask a question on the free conference call is to raise your hand by pressing *6. When you press *6, and then some systems, it'll ask you to do 1, depending on your cell phone carrier, *6 or *61. That will put you in the queue. It'll show me a little raised hand, and when I click on you, it'll unmute you so that you can ask your question live, which is always fun, right? It's always fun. Okay, so let's go ahead and go with the questions that have been submitted already, and then we'll get to some of the new questions, okay? The very first question that we're going to answer tonight is about age. I've got someone here who wants to know how they can generate more income when they feel like their age impacts their ability. Now, if you're watching live tonight, I'm going to ask you to please drop some more comment on this in the chat. But otherwise, I'm going to speak to the main couple of categories that people bring to me. Okay. And so the main categories, when people talk about age, there's 3 main categories. They talk about getting employed as an older adult, as a mature adult. They talk about health, and maybe their health limits them from being able to actually fulfill the requirements of a money-making activity. Okay, so they're worried about getting employed. Like, people don't want to hire them because they're so close to retirement. They don't want to spend all that time training them, or they're afraid that these people aren't going to. Well, I'll dig into that in a second, but let me get through the 3. So 1 is getting employed, 1 is health. Maybe you got medical concerns. Okay, so those are 2 of the biggest reasons when somebody says their age. Those are 2 of the biggest reasons. And then the other one that people bring to me, and this is a little delicate, so I don't really know I don't really know how to say it in a nice way. So and has anybody, if you've been with me for a couple of years, you remember that we used to tagline this, your money questions answered with style and grace. Like I was trying to speak grace into my life. And I like to think that my words are more seasoned with salt now than they used to be. But I know that I have still got a long way to go before anyone could ever consider me a very gracious person. It's a work in progress. I'm a work in progress, y'all. Um, but there is no real gracious way to talk about the third category. When people come to me and they say, well, I'm too old to do this or I'm too old to do that, a lot of times what it comes down to and it ties into the employment piece. A lot of times what it comes down to is feeling like the world has passed you by, the technology, that maybe you don't have the skill set. Okay. The skill set. And when I say skill set, I'm specifically most of the time talking about technology. Okay. And so let's take each of those one by one, shall we? And so when it comes to age, one of the biggest things that people come to me who have a problem getting more money or building wealth because of their age, or they can't seem to get extra income to dump debt because of their age, or whatever it is regarding building wealth, dumping debt, prospering, being wealthy. When it's age, one of the biggest things that people come to me is they're having a hard time getting hired. And sometimes that can be medical, which is a whole separate category that we'll talk about in a second. But when people tell me they have trouble getting hired, there's a lot that goes into that. And I am not a fan of any kind of age discrimination, but I've been part of several companies, and I saw it even in the Air Force, where I remember being the young lieutenant who was just waiting for the old chief to hurry up and retire so we could progress things. Like, and then one day I turned around and I was the old person everybody was trying to get to retire so that they could move progress, right? Like, I don't know, it just happened like that, right? It's just in a blink of an eye. You're just like, whoa, when did that happen, right? So I remember those days, right? And I also had somebody who's like, yeah, nobody will hire me because I'm 63. They just all assume that they're going to hire me and they're going to train me and they're going to pour all this into me, and then I'm going to retire at 65 like I'm authorized to. And I was like, well, of course you're not going to do that. Why don't you just assure them that you're committed and you like to work? And they were like, are you kidding me? That's exactly what I'm going to do. So I was just like, I don't know what you want me to do with that, because if that's your intention, then as a business owner myself, who has hired people at times and didn't, and then had been a solopreneur, and then now I'm in the process of hiring again. Like, when I was hiring people because I worked in a secure facility and I couldn't execute my business as I needed to, so I hired people to do that for me to keep the business going during that assignment. I didn't need somebody who was only going to be there for 6 months or only going to be there for a year. Now, they might have ended up only being there for a little bit, but this was a relationship I was looking to build for the all. And I was looking, it took a lot of time and energy to get somebody to understand the intricacies of what I do and my standards. Okay. And so it's like, wait a second. I really want to help. I really want to be supportive and encouraging, but we also have to look at things from the employer's perspective. So if you already know that people are going to look at your age and they're going to assume that you are not going to be in it for the long haul, that they're going to waste their time trying to train you, and as soon as you get training, you're going to leave, which incidentally is a problem with young people too, right? Like, I'm not trying to be stereotypical, but I remember being at that age where every time I learned a new skill, I could have jumped ship and gone somewhere else, right? And that's how a lot of people are upwardly mobile. So, I don't know where that sweet spot is, but the bottom line is people are more likely to assume, if you're close to retirement age, they're more likely to assume that's what you're going to do. And if it is what you're going to do, then I would suggest to you that integrity would inform your ability to find another way to be of value. So there are people in my life and people who are involved in my business who I don't expect are going to be part of my life or part of my business for more than 3 or 4 years. But they are mentoring me, or they are assisting me, or I've hired them to do whatever. And I'm fully expecting to grow from that. And then there's a lot of times where I find somebody who has the experience and knowledge, and they've been through ups and downs of the markets. They've been through building up their business. They've been through what makes you fold your business and go back to work for a good government job that I can't stand right now. But I'm not ever going to never say never, because I remember these people who they had bustling training businesses. They were doing what I was doing. They would put out something to meet up and it would fill up, and they would make money hand over fist. And then lean times came, or sickness of a spouse came, so there's always a value. That value may not just be in the day-to-day job. Maybe there's something else of value that you can offer that trumps the other person next to you who's younger. And the thing about it being younger, it's, if there are a lot of opportunities I don't get because I want to be paid more than they're willing to pay, and they can go get some young intern to make minimum wage and be happy about it. And that person's going to have a lot more energy than I am to put towards it. And that person's not going to have all the family commitments that I have. And so that person is going to do a far, I don't want to say better job, because some things you can do faster, better with experience. And some things it's not about the physical time, but it's about, the size of your network. What do you bring to the table? Sometimes bringing a strong Rolodex is more important than bringing strong biceps, right? So these are the kinds of things that we want to be aware of, and we don't want to hide our head in the sand and say, oh, well, it's the law, you can't discriminate against me. If we want to be in a place that values us, we've got to be able to provide value. And if we know that our age might complicate people seeing that value, then we've got to learn to advocate for ourselves. Okay. And so getting employed isn't just about, oh, you're close to retirement, but let me tell you something. It's also something that I'm seeing in my own life that I have to learn how to resist in my own life. And that is, the more experience you get and the more set in your ways you get, the less you really want to hear somebody else tell you how to do it. And I have never had that problem in the Air Force. Like, I sometimes wonder if my career would have been better or more progressive if I had that problem. But one time they sent me, I had an opportunity to deploy, and I was a young captain, and I had just taken over the exercises and deployments branch, and I had an opportunity to deploy, which, as a physicist back then, you never went out of country. Like my career field, like they sent us through the survival and evasion and all that kind of stuff training. Like you fell out of a crashing airplane, and you're out in the land with your parachute and anything that you had on you, and here's how to make a knife, and here's how to do all that stuff, right? So they gave us that training because of our background training made us targets. And so, but back then you didn't leave the country. So when 9/11 happened, and now all of a sudden everybody's deploying, and now I ended up taking over this thing. I was like, well, how am I going to deploy people and send people in harm's way? And I don't know what it's like. I need to go deploy. And we found a place that I could deploy. But as a physicist, I wasn't qualified. I wasn't qualified for most of the jobs we had then, because of my expertise was not at all in the things we needed to fight a war. But I found one little job, and it was a very interesting job. And the job that I deployed on was under a tech sergeant. And everybody counseled me, was like, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, yes, I need to go through this process. And I really did. Going through that process, and being out there, and then watching all my stuff float out of my tent down with the storms. Like, those are experiences that you just don't get it sitting behind your desk, and having to face whether or not you're going to actually pull your gun if this person doesn't turn around. Like those are the kinds of things you don't get sitting behind a desk. And so I'm very glad for that experience. But my boss was a tech sergeant. And when right after 9/11, when we sent all of our cops forward, I was also under the direction of some of our lieutenants who worked the cops, because I was part of the ready force. So I would do things like check IDs at the gates, or monitor some of our areas that were needed to be secured. And I liked to go to the boring ones because everybody else didn't want to be at the boring ones. And so I would take the hit and let the young cop airmen get the assignments they really wanted. And so, I loved that. But again, I worked for somebody who was under me. So for me, taking direction for somebody that's of lower rank or on paper they're my boss, but technically they outrank me. Well, that's not really been a big issue for me. But the older I've gotten, the more of a big issue that's become. And I suspect for a lot of us who are having problems with getting hired because of our age, well, that's something that you're going to want to address. And at what point you address it, you're going to have to feel that out. But just like with the potential for coming in your 60s and then you're going to retire soon, addressing these things. Hey, this, I know a lot of times we see somebody with my resume, you kind of expect that they're around the end of their career. And I want to assure you that I'm boom, 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 boom. And I bring this, and that to the table, and I can do this and this and this for you. And, I understand that, a lot of times that, someone with my level of experience may not be well versed in what's the new trends in this, but you can do your research and you can present that and let them know. Okay. So now this answer is definitely a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, but I'm still only on number one. So this, so we might spend a lot of time on this because I think this is a very important question. Now, 20 years ago, did I think it was an important question? Well, no, I didn't care as much 20 years ago, but now I'm seeing it, and I'm seeing it in my friends, and I'm seeing it in the people who we started off in the Air Force together, and now we're retired and we're trying to figure out this whole new world of being civilian, right? And so I'm seeing that, and that's why I'm really taking the time to answer it. And plus, most of my clients, believe it or not, most of my clients are women in their 60s and 70s who are learning how to manage money for the first time, learning how to create multiple streams of income for the first time, feeling like they've missed the boat and being able to buy a house. And they're so overjoyed when I'm like, nope, I can get you there in 5 years. You can own your own home. And if you work really hard, you can own your own home without taking on any debt. Like, we can do this. And it's just like being able to bring that hope is so amazing. And it's just so much fun. Okay. But so this is a big thing. Another big thing that falls into this category, and this is part of what falls into my disability rating, is ever since the car accident, I don't quite have the stamina that I used to. And I know some people say, oh, well, I had one person say to me, well, you're just getting older now. That's why you can't do the things that you used to do before the accident. You're just getting older now. Just relax and stop trying to do so much. And I'm looking around at people like Dr. George Fraser. I'm looking around at people like some of the religious leaders that I follow. I'm looking around at these people and I'm sick. I'm looking around, I'm like, they're not sick all the time. They're healthy. They're at a good weight, and they are taking action daily in the direction of their dreams. And so if they're twice my age, well, I mean, maybe not twice anymore. if they're 20 years older than me, let's say it that way. If they're 20 years older than me, then there's no reason on God's green earth that I can't also have that health, that I can't also have that stamina. Okay. But in this situation, I really do have medical issues that would preclude me ever going and saying, yeah, I'm going to work a standard 9 to 5 for the rest of my life. Not going to happen, because I value my lifestyle, and I value the flexibility and freedom. And medically, it's not the healthiest thing for me. And I praise God that I have the position to be able to do that, because I worked hard when I had the strength. And I'm encouraging you, if you're younger today or you have a lot of strength today, I'm encouraging you to work hard while you have the strength. Put together that savings, get those investments going, learn how to do this and learn how to do that to secure your financial future, because tomorrow is not promised. And even though a lot of times we say that and we think, oh, well, if I get in a car accident and die tomorrow, well, it's no big deal. Well, you may not get in a car accident and die tomorrow. You might get in a car accident and be maimed tomorrow. That's a whole nother situation, because now you have to subsist and you have to live with the relationships and the finances that you've established. And if you haven't put any time and energy into building relationships, I don't know who needs to hear this today, but I tell you what, this was not where I was going, but I feel led to say it. If you have not spent time pouring into the relationships that are important to you, because you have been chasing after this, building this empire or achieving this rank or any number of things that we think that we are important right now, but we can build those relationships later. I'm here to tell you, you may not be able to build those relationships later. When I was laying in that emergency room, I realized that if my life had been frozen at that point, and if I had to live for the rest of my life as the vegetable that was in that emergency room that day, I was going to be a very, very, very poor off individual indeed. Not financially, but relationally. Because I hadn't built the relationships with my family. I hadn't built relationships with friends. I had friends, but I had friends who were used to me being so independent that their help wore out real quick. And that's not their fault. Sometimes we don't ever want to let anybody in. Oh my goodness, this is supposed to be about money, but I'm telling you, this plays into your finances. It's really, really hard to succeed without the relationships and the networks. Okay. So let me get back to the health, because if you are in a situation where your health is degraded, I don't want you to despair today. There's always a way. And that's one of my taglines. There's always a way. And if you don't see a way, then that doesn't mean that there isn't a way. It means that you don't see the way, because there's always a way. There's always a way. And there's always a way to work within the energy that you have, to work within the talents that you have, to work within the skill sets that you have, to work within the available time that you have. I know right now some of you feel like I am just working this low income job, this minimum wage job. I can barely make it, and I barely have any energy to fall into bed at night and wake up the next morning and do it all over again. But I'm here to tell you there is always a way, and it doesn't have to take oogobs of effort. It doesn't have to take monumental money or monumental relationships. All it has to take is you being intentional about what you desire, focusing on it multiple times a day, saying, this is what I want, writing it down, engaging all the portions of your brain, writing it down, speaking it out loud to yourself several times a day, focusing on what it is that you desire. And I guarantee you, the Lord will begin to open up the doors for you. And it's an energetic thing when we are confident and we are taking bold steps. I think it was Thoreau who said to, go directly or go confidently in the direction of your dreams. When we go confidently in the direction of our dreams, even though we don't know how everything's going to work out, we walk in that kind of energy. And that energy, some people call it a vibration. You know how they always talk about a feeling? I get good vibes from them, I get bad vibes from them. And when you're talking with somebody in the grocery store, you can get a vibe from them, whether or not they really want to talk to you or whether they just wish you would go away and leave them alone, right? Like, now we all have phones. We're all standing in line behind each other on our phones. But back in the day, we used to be standing around and you could gauge who wanted to talk and who didn't from the energy. And it's your energy that goes before you and meets others before you even open up your mouth. It's that energy. And I had somebody one time, she was a potential client, and she would send me these long messages about how nobody's there for her. No one will help her. She can't figure out this and she can't figure out that. I gave her my $500 class, Authentic Abundance. I gave her that class and I said, do the lessons. And I'm going to tell you how I know she didn't do the lessons. Because if you can't do those lessons and write out those lessons without a change in energy. Say, what? You can tell that? I can tell that because I lived it. I was that person who was always like, yeah, I know. I got it. I didn't get it, because if I'd have got it, I'd have get it. And I wasn't getting it. And I wasn't getting it because I wasn't applying myself, and I wasn't being grateful, and I wasn't writing out my intention. Therefore, I wasn't walking in that energy enough to attract other people into my life, or to, at least when I bump into them, for them to feel, hey, there's something about this person that I like, for them long enough for them to open up the doors. And you say, well, that's really a lot of metaphysical stuff. And I thought you were a scientist in the Air Force for 20 something years. Yes, I was. And yes, it is a scientific principle that has been proven in many, many studies. I just don't have beeps and squeaks for you, but I promise you these things work. Okay. So if you feel like your health is keeping you, there's always a way. If you have enough health to listen to what I'm saying, or to watch me whether you're listening on the free conference call or watching on the live stream, if you have enough health to do that and understand what I'm saying, then you have enough health to change your life. You have enough strength to change your life. You have enough comprehension to change your life. You may only have 1 good hour of strength, and that's okay. Take that 1 good hour of strength and maximize it, and you will change your life. Now, I remember after the car accident, and again, I promise y'all, we've been on for almost half an hour now. I promise you, I was not planning on talking about all of this tonight, but I know somebody needs to hear this because I had a list of questions. And whenever I feel led like this, I always get feedback that somebody needed to hear this today. So if that's you, make sure you reach out to me. But I remember after the car accident, I remember how I just was walking around like I was in a fog. It was 5 years ago. Ooh, y'all, it was 5 years ago this month. And I was walking around like I was in a fog all day. And and you could talk to me and I would kind of hear you, but everything was just hazy. And I had so much trouble putting things together and I was embarrassed. So I had these troubles, but then I was so embarrassed that I wasn't admitting anything. I just kind of stand in conversations and nod and hope I could figure out what I needed to do. And everybody knew I couldn't. I know that now. I didn't know that then, right? I thought I was doing a good job of how I did, but I was not. And my poor staff, oh my goodness, if anybody who ever worked for me when I was the chief of protocol right after this car accident, I feel so bad for them. I was trying so hard to hold it all together because that was the year I should have made '06. And being that high of a position, being the chief of protocol for a 4-star general, I just knew I was going to get that promotion. And I was trying to keep it all together, but I wasn't keeping it all together. And after a couple months, they removed me from that position. After a couple months, they removed me from that position and they put me in a job where I had no duties assigned for about 4 months, y'all. I was so poorly off medically that they kept thinking I was going to be boarded right away, and there was no sense in giving me anything to do. And so the funny thing about a brain injury, you get shook up, you have concussion, or you have anything like that. The funny thing about those is, generally speaking, the stress of trying to prove you're better usually keeps you from getting better. The stress of trying to get things done, the stress of trying to prove you don't belong to be put out to pasture, all of that generally keeps you from healing. So sitting in this place for 4 months, now I'm not going to say I healed right away because it's taken a while, and it's taken a very long while. But in the course of that 4 months, I'm gonna tell you what happened. It really caught me by surprise. In the course of about 4 months, I had an hour where I felt like my old self. It was just 1 hour, maybe not even that long, and it was just one little blip in a week or two. And I went to the chiropractor the next day and the next week. And I said, something interesting happened last week. For a brief moment, I felt like my old self. And he said, you better not tell the doctors at the Air Force this. I said, why is that? I think they would want to know that I'm starting to get better. He said, no, they're going to think you're manic depressive and that you're having a manic episode. And they're going to hurry to put you out. And I thought, well, I don't understand why he would tell me that. I wanted him to celebrate with me. Like for an hour, I felt like my old self. I got stuff done. I got some house cleaning doing. I mean, I wasn't having migraines. I wasn't walking around in the fog. It was absolutely delicious. And then it was gone. It was gone for like 2 weeks. It was gone. But it came back. And it came back. And it came back. And then after maybe about a year, I think, because I know when I went with John Maxwell, I was part of John Maxwell's team that went down to Costa Rica. I still wasn't there yet. And then when everything happened with being falsely accused, that was in 2019. So I still wasn't all the way there yet either. But when that happened, I was about half and half. So I was about half of the energy of my old self and half the fog. But at least I had now gotten a taste. And so I was trying to be more careful about getting more rest, trying to reduce as much stress as possible, which is really hard to do when you get escorted out of your job like a criminal, right? Talk about stress, right? But I was able to get some of me back. And having gone from being the chief scientist, the deputy chief scientist, and then being, another assignment and coming back and now being the chief of protocol, and having been at that high estate, and now here I am. I couldn't even make Monopoly change with my son. It was so embarrassing. I would tell him, well, you need to practice your math. So you be the banker. But the reality was I just couldn't figure it. I could look at those hundreds and those 500s and those 20s and those 50s, and I couldn't figure it. And y'all, I'd been a scientist for 20 years. Math is what I did for a living. But here in this situation, I couldn't do it. And so to be able to get some of myself back was just amazing. And then I think it was about a year ago. I had an afternoon. Y'all, I had an afternoon where I thought in matrices like a lot of scientists do. Okay. And I was like, oh, I'm getting all the way back, baby. I was like, it's possible. And if you wonder, why do I love Dr. Amen and the Amen Clinic so much? Why am I so fastidious about my diet and working sure I work out every day and trying to just eliminate people who are negative from my life, even if they're family? Like, if you wonder why I'm so protective of all that, it's because it took me 5 years to get my brain to where it needs to be. So I'm saying all that to share with you that whatever your health concern is right now, it doesn't have to be your health concern forever. And 5 years ago, maybe I wasn't in a wealth building mode. In fact, when I finally did my taxes for that year of the car accident, y'all, going through my check register and everything, I wrote checks for people I still don't know what it was for. I wrote checks and bought things and swiped things on the credit card. I don't know where any of that stuff is. I don't know if I got scammed. Some of those things that they had my signature on file, but I couldn't tell you. And so I know what it's like to know. I know what it's like to feel like your family and your friends have dismissed you. Like, people are going to, and it's a big fear. Oh, well, my husband or my son, they're going to think that I'm not strong enough mentally to do this or do that. Like, I've been there. I know I'm older than I look, but I've been there. And what I want you to be encouraged about today is that these things don't have to hold you back. And it may take a year, it may take 2 years, it may take 3 years, it may take 4 years, it may take 5 years, it might take 10 years. But if 10 years are going to pass, whether or not you are doing these things, whether or not you progress, whether or not you pay down debt, whether or not you build wealth, whether or not you build a legacy, whether or not you do things that are good for your future self, whether or not you build relationships, that 10 years is going to pass anyway. So let's make the best of them. Because one day when you come out of the medical fog, you want to have left a foundation that leads you to the life that you've been dreaming about. Les Brown says there's greatness in you. That man built an empire, #1 motivational speaker in the world. And yet even he wasn't all right medically. And he'll tell you, they use different terminology back then, but he'll even tell you the labels that they put on him. He'll even tell you today, I've got this and that, and you know what? If you're going to work with me, you got to understand that this and that's going to show up. Doesn't change the fact that he is still one of the number 1 speakers in the world. And I don't know what you've got facing. I don't know what you've got facing you. I don't know what obstacles are in your way, but I know one thing, that through Christ, all things are possible. I know that I can do all things through him that strengthens me. I know that we have more control over our lives and over our future than we often think. And it all starts with the step of, today, I'm making a decision that I am going to live my life. Woo. Ooh, thank you. All right. So now, in the world's longest answer to one question, I told you, somebody needed to hear this. Somebody needed to hear this today. In the world, the answer to the world's longest question. So we've talked about how to not to let age keep you from getting employed, because you're going to advocate for yourself. You're going to find out what they need. And you're going to make sure that they know that you're going to deliver. We talked about health and how you don't have to let health keep you back, right? Even your medications that you're taking, even if you don't have enough strength, if you don't have enough strength to work a 9 to 5, you find what you can do. I know someone that makes t-shirts, soaps. I know another person that makes soaps. I do this business. I do this business in the confines of my school schedule. So the hour of car line in the morning and the hour of car line in the evening. You wonder why my conference starts when it starts and ends when it ends? Because I'm going to be in that car line, and I might be the last car in there, but I'm going to get into that car line. Okay. The last one is skill sets and technology. And a lot of times, if an employer's got to choose between somebody who's well versed in all the latest technologies and all the latest ways of helping people, and they got to choose between that person and somebody who, your claim to fame is typing 90 words a minute on the typewriter. Well, that's 90 words a second and 90 words a minute. Yeah, a minute on the typewriter. You're like, I don't know who else remembers that. I remember I used to get timed on that in school. Like, how fast could you type? And those things were heavy. You had to really plunk them things to get the dealie to come up and hit the page, right? Like I said, I'm a little older than I look. And things have changed. And I was doing a thing the other day. I was prepping a thing for kids about writing checks and stuff, and people were like, nobody pays with checks anymore. And I'm like, yes, they do. And then they were like, well, only old people. And I was like, but I had to realize, and so there's a huge difference in our generations. Okay, so we've got traditionalists, and we have the last remaining traditionalists that are still there. Those are the people that gave birth to the baby boomers, right? And those are the folks that are exiting the workforce now, and they gave birth to my generation, Gen X, right? And Gen X was the first latchkey kids. So a lot of us, it's very interesting if you read these memes about being part of each generation, and being that first generation that overwhelmingly stayed home and pretty much raised themselves, which would explain why so many of us are so calloused and critical, right? But then you've got the millennials, Gen Y, and then you've got my son's generation, Gen Z, right? So you've got these different generations, and each generation has a different flavor and different things that are important to them. Traditionalist, boomers, and some Gen X, it's still very, very important to build that in person and direct communication. And I find with my son's generation, they still want that relationship, but it's a different kind of relationship than the one that I might build with someone who's more mature than me. And they're going to talk about things that are different, or not talk, I suppose. It's very interesting traveling with a teenager who is fairly open about what he's doing. It's quite the growth. It's quite the growth for me. But if we're looking to be employed, we've got to understand that, especially in a capitalist society, that employer, all they're looking for is to increase their bottom line. And so we've got to be able to assure them that we can, or we've got to find ways to provide services that align with what we can do, what we know how to do, what we feel comfortable with doing. And sometimes we need to be comfortable with getting uncomfortable. If I go somewhere and I can't seem to get hired to do something that's in my sweet spot, then maybe the Lord telling me it's time to develop another sweet spot. That is a whole different conversation. Okay. The important thing to take away from the age discussion is that if you feel like your age is a factor in not getting hired, these are the kinds of things that you can address so that your potential employer knows that these are not the kinds of things that are going to get in your way of bringing value to them. Now, if you ever want to sit down, one of the things that I do is consult people with creating their own businesses and finding out what really works for you, what makes your heart sing, and whether or not you can develop some additional streams of income. And you would be surprised at some of the things that I come up with. Like when somebody comes to me and they're like, yeah, I just signed this contract with a publisher. I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And they're going to send me 10,000 books and I'm going to be rich. And I'm like, no, I wouldn't have advised you to do that. So let's figure out how you're going to get those books sold, because most authors lose money that way. And I'm not, if that's your situation, I'm not trying to make light of it, but it is a true statement that most people who pursue those routes end up in debt rather than making money. All right. I hope that's been a pretty thorough answer. If you'd like more, okay. If you'd like more than the 44 minutes I've already spent talking about that answer, feel free Feel free to either raise your hand if you're on the free conference call. And I thank you, those of you who are on free conference call today. Y'all do my heart good, especially those of you who stayed on while my son had the con and didn't think anybody was on. um, in that, if you have a question in the chat, you can go ahead and put something in the chat. Or I've got a couple of questions here that have already been submitted. I'm checking let's see, we've got 2 new responses in the form. Okay, let me check those. All right, so the first question was about the age. Let me just go ahead and mark here that I went ahead and answered that one. Okay, let's see, what do we have next? Okay. All right, so here's another question. This is a really good one. Okay, this is a really good one for anybody. Well, let me scroll through here. Okay, somebody asked a question about the emergency light. I don't know if they're still on because of the age question took longer than I thought. But the emergency light, if anybody is curious about that, I have an old video from when we were renovating our church in the mall. So I was the pastor of Kingstown Family Life Center for about 4 years in the Pierre Bossier Mall, Bossier City, Louisiana. And I have a video. I have all kinds of little snippety videos of me doing different things to get the place ready. Because I knew I was going to go into teaching real estate. I didn't think I was going to end up being the pastor of this church. I actually thought, I was told that somebody else was going to be the pastor, and they were working on bringing them in. And apparently, God's plans are not always aligned with human plans, and those people went a different way. And I'd already, they're like, well, you can just hold it down until we get somebody else. And I'm like, okay, I will. I anyway, so I made all those videos. They weren't about opening up a church. They were about renovating the building. And one of those was replacing the emergency battery, the emergency light battery. So, I realized it was going to be expensive to replace all of them, and it was going to require some new wiring to replace all of them to the new lights. So what we did was we bought batteries and we placed them. And the last time I walked through that mall, because I go back there fairly often, the last time I walked through that mall, the emergency lights were still working. So that battery must have held out all this time. Okay, so let me see if there's any other questions, and then I'm going to go to this question here that I thought was a really good one. And this one is about mindset as well. This is about generating and keeping the income that you know that you're deserving. How do I generate and keep the income that I know that I'm deserving of? And this is like 2 sides of the same coin. So the first side of the coin is generating the income. And this one's a little bittersweet for me because, a lot of times people tell me, well, I'm working at this job and I'm working at that job and I'm making $10 an hour, I'm making $13 an hour, and I just don't know how I'm going to last. And I think to myself, but a job at $10 or $13 an hour is really not designed for you to feed your family on. It's designed for somebody who already has some of their income covered, or designed for a 2-person household where somebody else is working, and those jobs are designed that way. And so then the question is, well, how do I get into a job? How do I get into a job that makes more and covers what I need covered so that I can take care of my family and not have to work 2 or 3 jobs? And a lot of this goes back to what we talked about with the age question. A lot of it goes into mindset, and it goes into energy. The energy that meets people when they meet you. The energy you exude. And this one, I got to tell you this, if you have not been, let me just do a shameless plug. If you have not been to my Women's Wealth Summit, you need to get yourself and be part of the Women's Wealth Summit. And then you need to go back and get the VIP access so you can get Tanya Pritchett's talk today about how women make way less when they're heavier in certain different categories of health. And I was blown away. But then I thought about it. I was like, well, you know what? As a professional speaker, one thing I've noticed is that the professional speaking world is just as judgmental of your appearance as the military. At least in the military, I knew I could do my push-ups and sit-ups, and I knew where my waist stand, I knew where my run was. So I was very happy that, other than the times when I was pregnant, or had the car accident, I pretty much had 96, 97, 100 percent on my fitness test because I knew where my gates were. And even though I'm built like a linebacker and I've always been a little heavy, I was able to make those, right? And so when it comes to generating the funds you know you deserve, a lot of times we say we know we deserve stuff, but we don't carry ourselves like we know we deserve it. In fact, we carry ourselves like we don't know that we deserve anything, or that we think that we don't deserve anything. And so there's a couple things that we can do to help us get energetically in the right frame of mind. And so one of those things that we can do is, especially when we're going to interview or look for a job, prepare. Prepare by researching the company, prepare by going online and getting some interview questions and practicing how you would answer them, right? Being prepared is a great way to shift your energy and elevate your energy so that you are moving out of, oh, I wonder if I still have it in here, so that you're moving out of the realm of emotions and here we go. Here we go. You guys are going to like this. All right. This is a bonus today. I know y'all weren't expecting to get this. This is the 7 levels of character. And this is a training that I have licensed to teach. And I'm getting ready to teach it again. That's why I had started loading it in here. A lot of us in our life, we live in a low energy life. And when things get tough, we run away from it. Or when things get tough, we quit. You see that? You see number 1 is run away and number 2 is quitter. Look at the emotions here. So many of us spend all day long hating ourselves inside. It's no wonder that we're not attracting into our life, or that we're not earning, or that we're not being asked to jump into the places that allow us to make more money, because we're walking in these low level emotions. A lot of times we might see ourselves as hopeless and helpless. We might feel like even as we move up the energetic chain and we start to have some energy, but it's just frenetic. We're just going around and around and we never can do enough. And we're just spending all of our time. We feel like we're never enough. If we're walking in these energies, there's no way we're going to get paid what we're worth. We're not going to generate the funds that we deserve. And it's energy. But when we can shift our energy, then we become someone who is more attractive to people who are already walking in higher energy. And guess what? Most people who hold the money and hold the jobs and hold the wealth are walking in higher energy. And so what are some things that we can do to change that? Well, a practice of gratefulness, prayer, Bible study, meditation, all of these kinds of things. Accepting ourselves as we are. I was gonna try to pull it up, but I don't see that sticky here. But that's one of my favorite stickies to start people off with when they first start doing affirmations is I accept myself as I am. Yeah, I don't see it here. I must have left it with the youth that we did this weekend, so it must be in my youth bag. But we those are foundations and that can help us. And so if we aren't making what we feel we deserve, then some of it can be our energy, some of it can be the energy of the people we choose to associate with. But it all comes down to energy, because the energy opens up the opportunities. It also comes down to intention. How intentional are you about achieving what you want? There was a time where I wanted to be a millionaire, but anytime I was around millionaires, I felt so out of place. I didn't feel like I belonged. I didn't feel like I was good enough. I didn't feel like I deserved to be there. And I had to put myself in places where I surround myself with that energy and be able to elevate myself. And do I ever slip back into the childish tee-hee-hee mode? Sure, I do sometimes. But for the most part, I know I deserve a rich and fulfilling, abundant life. Jesus promised that I would have abundant life. He said he came that I might have life and that more abundantly. Now, I'm not going to start preaching at y'all today, but we're supposed to walk in abundance. Good things are supposed to happen to us. Good things are supposed to happen to you. Good things are supposed to happen to you. And you know what? Sometimes we can't make it happen. Sometimes everything we do, the door's shut in our face. So we can't always make it happen, but we can make it welcome. We can put together the right conditions in our body, in our mind, in our soul, in our spirit, our relationships, in our household. We can put together the right conditions to make welcome what it is that we want. You want to have more money? Make welcome more money by learning how to manage money. Make welcome more money by learning how to say no to people who are always manipulating and guilt tripping you out of money. That's one way you make welcome. I remember when I came to that point in my life where I realized one of the reasons that the Lord wasn't giving me more was because I was not a good steward of what I had, what He had already given me. Anytime somebody came along and cried about they needed this for their kid or they needed that for this, for the ministry, that I was like the Bank of Jjj, right? And it really, what it came down to was feeling like I don't deserve this. And I came from very humble beginnings. My ex-husband and my current husband, well, I don't know if my current husband came from humble beginnings, but my ex-husband came from humble beginnings. And so neither one of us were used to having a whole lot. So we were okay with giving a lot away. But when I peeled back the onion and really went into what is motivating this, I discovered that really what was motivating it was a discomfort with having. Now, I knew how to be broke. I knew how to have nothing, but I didn't know how to have. And I didn't know how to see you not having and feel like it's okay for you to not have because you partied away your life. You partied away your money and you don't have. You're wearing your wealth instead of investing your wealth. And I had to learn how to be okay with seeing that and saying, you bear the consequences of your decisions, and I bear the consequences of my decisions. And once I started bearing the consequences of my decision and allowing others to bear the consequences of their decisions, then when something happened legit, like someone got rear-ended and someone needs medical care, or when this missions happen, or when this other need happens, it's a legit need, then not only did I have enough to prepare for my family, to provide for my family, but then I also had enough to help meet the need. And what a lot of us are doing is we're giving to people who aren't a need. They're a want. Oh. I bet all my views are gonna drop here as soon as this part of the feed hits Facebook, because people don't like to hear it. You know, a whole lot of people that have their hands out to you, they don't mean you any good, and they're just wasting your money. And if you stop giving to them, I had a client one time, well, I can't stop buying shoes for my niece and glasses for my nephew. I can't stop doing those things. And I was like, honey, if your sister is as resourceful as you say she is, the minute you stop buying all these things for her kids, she will find another way. Oh, don't be deceived. You do not hold the sun up in place. You do not hold the moon circling around the earth. You stop enabling people, they will find somebody else. And I'm not saying don't bless somebody. I'm not saying don't be there in their time of need. I'm not saying anything like that. What I am saying is let's be wise stewards of what we have, because when we're not wise stewards of what we have, what we're showing the world, especially those predatory people, what we're showing them is, no, we don't think we deserve it. So not only is it hard to make what you deserve, but then it's hard to keep what you deserve, because you have to believe you deserve it. Now, sometimes we don't keep what we deserve because we got other things and we get around shopping. And I'm the worst for this, y'all. You wouldn't think it because I'm such a simple person. Well, one time, I forget who it was. It's like, how come you're always taking truckloads to the rescue mission? You know, at some point you ought to have your house cleaned up. And what I didn't want to say was, well, because I keep bringing stuff in. But I really had to deal with the fact that whenever I felt lonely, whenever I felt tired, well, not really tired, because I'll eat and sleep when I'm tired. But whenever I felt lonely, or whenever I had an issue going on, I didn't feel like I could address it and solve the problem. What I do? Amazon. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you how you know you got a problem with shopping if you get the box and you are so excited about that box and you open it up and there's that thing you ordered from Amazon or wherever, and you're like, oh, this is great. And then you put that box down and you're like, oh, I wish I had I can't wait for the next package. That's when you know you have a problem. The thrill was in the shopping. It isn't in the thing. And I had to learn that I was taking a lot of money that God had given me and I was spending it massaging my feelings instead of solving the problem. I was spending money trying to make myself feel better about situations that I either felt like I couldn't or was unwilling to face. And many of us have a lot of those in our lives where we are unwilling to face and we are unwilling to take action because it's scary and we're worried about if we hold people accountable, they're going to leave us. And if we stop giving to these organizations that treat us bad, then we're never going to have any friends, and it's a huge spiral. And I'm here to tell you today, if you feel like you can't keep what you deserve, well, that might be something you need to do, is start addressing all the other issues in your life. And then it'll be easier for you to say no. It'll be easy for you to not buy this thing. It'll be easier for you to not take that class, take this trip, buy that dress, get that car. It comes from really being secure in who you are and understanding who you are and having confidence in who you are and whose you are. Now, another category of people that don't ever seem to have what they deserve, it's simply training. We weren't taught how to manage money. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but a lot of people that I know and that I grew up with, we never talked about money with our parents. The only money conversations we had with our parents was when they were telling us they didn't have enough money for whatever it was we wanted, you know? And so a lot of us, we have never really learned how to manage money. Some of us grew up with nothing and we feel that now we have the big job. We're making the six figures. We're entitled to this or entitled to that. Some of us feel like some of us are not keeping what we deserve because we look around at others and we are keeping up with the Joneses. If they're going out to $200 a night dinners, we're going out to $200 night dinners. And if they're wearing these designer clothes, and I don't have anything against designer clothes, but the things that you get should put a smile on your face. They should be well fitting to your body, and they should be stuff that you enjoy, not something you're just wearing because you want to keep up with somebody else. Who was it? It was I know Dave Ramsey says it a lot, but I think it was actually what's that guy? Wayne somebody, famous cowboy guy. Um Somebody drop it in the chat for me. But he's the one that said, we got to stop spending money we don't have, buying stuff we don't need to impress people we don't like. So that's some of it. So some of it could be, so what have I covered? Because I know I've covered a lot. Some of the reason we don't keep the money that we deserve is because either we haven't dealt with emotional issues, and those emotional issues are causing us to spend more than we should. We haven't learned how to say no to people who are manipulating us or who are just, they prey on our giving hearts. I tend to be a giving person, and I tend to surround myself with people who are also giving. So I suspect if you're watching me, then you probably are a giving person. And a lot of giving people need guardrails. And one of the guardrails that I have in my life is I don't give money. I will donate to charitable organizations. If you need groceries, I might go buy you some groceries. If you need clothes, I might organize a drive. I might even organize others in giving money, but I'm not giving you money because I've learned in my life, I am no good at it. I become an enabler when I start giving money. And so I don't give you money. I teach you how to make more money. Right. And so, if you're a giving person, you might need some of those boundaries. Now, are there times where I'll donate to a cause when someone's house burned down? You better believe I donated to that cause. When a neighbor's house burned down, will I help out this or help out that? Yes, but it's within the confines of what have I allocated every month to giving. And I have learned if I don't have it, then God didn't call me to give it. If I don't have it, if it's not in my hand, then that's not the opportunity for me. And I had somebody one time, they were trying to sell me into something, and they were like, well, you must not have any faith because you need to be in my $20,000 program. And if you had faith, you would just jump and build your wings on the way down. And I'm like, I love that phrase, jump and build your wings on the way down, but I love being accountable to the fact that I'm going to be a wise steward of what God has given me. And I have learned if it's not in my hand, He has not given it to me to give. And when we keep giving, 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 giving what we don't have, the only thing we're doing, we are not helping those people. We are hamstringing our future. We're hamstringing our future. And worse, we are preventing somebody else who should be getting that blessing. Oh, y'all, I'm telling you that we do not hold the sun and the moon in place. We don't. And if we don't give, you say, well, I'm just going to put this $500 on my credit card to help so and so. No, you don't have it to give. If you don't have the 500 cash, you don't have it to give. Now, I'm not saying give cash, right? If I had to choose between you giving cash and you giving somebody, buying it on your credit card and then you paying it off as soon as they get it. Well, me, I'm going to be like, buy it on your credit card rather than give them cash. But I'm not a big fan of credit cards. All right. So that's a whole nother discussion. But what I'm saying is, you don't have it to give, so you put it on your card, then somebody else who does have it to give just lost their blessing. They just lost the opportunity to step up. The person you're helping just lost the opportunity to learn how to stand on their own 2 feet, just lost the opportunity to build a relationship with somebody else or to learn a new skill to help them earn some extra money. It doesn't mean we don't give, but it means we give strategically and intentionally. All right, all right. Well, you know what? That was 2 questions in 1 hour. I don't see any hands raised on the free conference call. I think, well, technically 3, because I did kind of answer a question about the light in the church. I think I'm going to just stop there. If anybody who's live, if you're in free conference call, go ahead and put something or raise your hand by *6. If you are in the live stream, go ahead and put your question in the chat. If I don't hear anything by the time I finish annotating that I answered these questions, then I'm going to go ahead and count us down, and I'm going to go ahead and close out. I want to thank you so much for being here with us today for the Fireside Chat. I do want to remind you that the Women's Wealth Summit has one more day. We will kick off at 8 Central, 9 Eastern tomorrow morning. We will be kicking off with, I believe it is Sabrina Lowry, Build Your Business Like a Boss. All right. And then we're going to have our guys come back. Kevin Williams and Dr. Jonas Gadsden. I'm going to be talking about how if a scientist can learn to network, then so can you. And it's just going to keep building from there. We've got our keynote, Dr. George Fraser, talking about wealth topics that are specifically for Black people, which, as you all know, being a person of color, it's very important to me in any conference that I do that we take a little bit of time aside to address how those issues affect minorities, specifically African American. And so, I mean, it's just a power pack lineup. Again, if you are not already registered, you can go to womenswealthsummit.com. And whether or not you're registered, if you've missed the first 2 days, you got to get yourself out to womenswealthvip.com and buy yourself the lifetime access to the talks. I'm actually uploading them now. All of yesterday's and some of today's have already been converted to MP3. So you're going to get the video as well as the MP3 that you can download to any device and take with you on the go instead of just streaming. I mean, that's a value people aren't providing anymore. And so I know I love that when I can download it. And so you'll be able to do that. It is only $99. So normally it's $199, but we decided to give you guys a 50% off on that. So you want to jump on that before the price goes back up. It's only $99, and you're going to get access to all the talks as well as some of the bonus talks that were uploaded so that the people who bought in had something to listen to while I edited the talks. I didn't want anybody to be empty-handed, right? I hope this has been a blessing. I hope it's been a blessing for you. It's been a lot of fun for me, but it is about time to sign off. I'm going to check the comments one more time to see if there's a new comment that came in. But I want to thank you for being here today. Again, my name is JJ Conway. This is our fireside chat. Next week, you can join me for our seven-figure business building. So we'll have a lesson related to building your business. And the week after that will be our real estate investing 101. The week after that, the empowered entrepreneur will probably be a replay because that will be Elect Ladies Week, and I will be in Atlanta. Now, oh, something I forgot to mention. If you are in the Atlanta area the week before Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day weekend is the Elect Ladies Conference. I have just booked a hotel room. I will be at the Hilton Garden Stonecrest. We will be having our Reconnect retreat. It's going to be a mini retreat. We're going to have our Reconnect retreat that Wednesday, the 25th, and that morning of the Thursday, the 26th of May. If we're still planning it all out, if you are interested, I'm not going to have a whole lot of public thing because I really want this to be a small, intimate group, a nice time of renewal and refreshing. But if that's something that you're interested in, reach out to me and I'll let you know how to sign up. Every year, it's a blessing. We do creative activities to really get in touch with who we are, set our intention for the coming year. And I say the coming year, I usually do it during my birthday month at the end of the month of May because that's my birthday month. And for me, it's my time. It's my time of personal renewal and reflection and rededication to my goals. And so if that's something you're interested in coming along with me on, that's very intimate journey, you are very, very welcome to join me. The costs and all that stuff will be forthcoming to those of you who tell me that you're interested. All right, that's really all I have for you all tonight. Again, I'm JJ Conway. Thanks for watching, or if you're on the free conference call, thanks for listening. Y'all take care and be blessed.